Today, we're reading a tweet and a letter, an open letter. In the last 100 years, you can count on one hand, actually just a few fingers, the number of cities that have had open letters published warning them that the state of things is ruinous and unsustainable. We're starting to see a lot more of that. People just calling stuff out because this is not an argument anymore. There is nothing more to discuss. We are talking about San Francisco's demise. Today, we're talking about Gumps. If you don't know what Gumps is, I'll give you a little preview. Gumps is, all right, we got the fall for the lush life. I got to show you. What we're talking about. Fall for the lush life. Gumps is always delighted customers with unique and unexpected treasures from around the world. And this fall is no exception. Shop our fall collection. All right. So it's a bunch of houseware stuff and jewelry. I mean, if you're into that, Gumps is your thing. Go to Gumps in San Francisco. It's been there we're going to read about it, but it's been there forever. We got flow florals over here, florals. We got home accents, fall jewelry, lighting. None of which I need in my life. But for those of you that do, those of you who need a necklace and a pendant, maybe a ring, some earrings, bracelet and bangles, charms and lockets, Gumps is for you. That's your thing. Not for me. But it's not always about me, right? It's just my podcast and I get to say whatever I want. So here's an open letter to Governor Newsom, Mayor Breed, and the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. Gumps has been a San Francisco icon for more than 165 years. 165 years. This has been around forever. Today, as we prepare for our 166th holiday season at 250 Post Street, we fear this may be our last because of the profound erosion of this city's current conditions. San Francisco now suffers from a tyranny of the minority, behavior and actions of the few that jeopardize the livelihood of the many. I thought that was for a very short paragraph, that basically encapsulates exactly what has gone on in San Francisco. But keep in mind, the San Francisco residents, the voters, voted for a lot of these shenanigans that you are now seeing reap the very progressive ideals of what they wanted. And this is it. This is the progress you get. Gumps saying, I don't know if we're going to be around much longer because we can't make it go at this rate. The ramifications of COVID policies advising people to abandon their offices are only beginning to be understood. 100%. We're starting to see some of the numbers come back of what entities are paying for properties. And it is a fraction of what these buildings were purchased for earlier, because now you don't have anybody working in them and street conditions are so bad. Nobody wants these buildings, right? And this is in downtown San Francisco. Equally devastating has been a litany of destructive San Francisco strategies, including allowing the homeless to occupy our sidewalks. That's not good. To openly distribute and use illegal drugs. Yep, not good either. And to harass the public and defile the city's streets. Yeah, I mean, there is a poop map, a poop emoji map for San Francisco that shows incidents of poop. It is so rampant throughout the city. Such abject disregard for civilized conduct makes San Francisco unlivable for its residents, unsafe for our employees, and unwelcoming to visitors from around the world. You know what public officers are going to say in San Francisco? Well, the murder rate in our town is really low for a city this size. And, it appears that a lot of the criminal activity, it's going down. It's because it's just not being reported. People aren't reporting property crimes. They aren't reporting, shootings half the time because people are like, another shooting. I mean, it was mostly a peaceful shooting. It didn't hit anybody. Nobody got murdered. Nobody got maimed. It's all good. It's fine. It's fine. San Francisco deserves better than the current condition of our city. Gumps implores the governor, the mayor, and the city supervisors to take immediate action. How about the district attorney? What about them? Got to throw them in there too, including cleaning the city streets, removing homeless encampments, enforcement of city and state ordinances, and returning San Francisco to its rightful place as one of America's shining beacons of urban society. I'm just going to finish out this letter, right? As San Franciscans, we will continue to support the compassionate efforts of helping those in need. But there's always the but, right? And whenever it's the but, that is when the truth is going to come. But we believe failed public policies must be abandoned and a renewed focus must be brought to restore the city we all love. We're at that crossroads where we've been, staring down the barrel of progressive policy, and it's coming back in droves. The feedback is coming back in droves. That may not be the best way to go. And that's a very nice way of saying it, right? It's a very nice way of saying it, because I don't need to get down and dirty. I don't need to go there. You know why? Because Gumps is already doing it for us. City workers, you got federal workers that on August 4th, the San Francisco Chronicle broke the story that federal workers at the federal building in San Francisco, they need to all go work from home because the criminal activity on the streets around the federal building is so bad. It's not safe to go and work there. It's much safer. You work from home. I don't live in the greatest neighborhood. Doesn't matter. It's still better than the federal building in San Fran. Right? So that's literally what we've got going on. So I want to go back and I want to talk about what, the immediate action of what they're asking for, because I think there's a real misunderstanding of, okay, so we know that this, these changes that brought us where we are today didn't happen overnight, but we need to overnight, we need to flip the switch and make it happen going backwards, meaning take care of these scenarios and make city of San Francisco, make Seattle, make Portland all great again. Right. Right. I mean, that's the end goal, right? Pull a Rudy Giuliani in New York City in the 1990s, just clean that bad boy up. One broken window after another, right? Right? That's what we're talking about. Well, let's break that down. Let's talk about, and it's already been identified here in the letter. And so we've got, Gumps implores the governor, the mayor, and the city supervisors to take immediate actions, including cleaning the city streets. Well, why do they need to clean them? Well, because you've allowed drugs to basically become legalized. You've allowed open air drug markets. And then you got drug addicts who can't make it to the toilet and or don't care that are homeless. You've got addicts taking a all over your city. Yeah, that's why you need your streets cleaned. So you don't need your streets cleaned. I mean, you do, because they're terrible. And the poop emoji map tells the story. But long term, so you clean it up. All right. So how long is it going to take until it's just back again? Next day. Why? Because you got a bunch of addicts who don't want to get off their drugs. They just want to keep living this lifestyle. And you've allowed it to happen. You allowed all the homeless encampments to happen because that was such a progressive ideal. It's just our unhoused neighbors. We want to take care of everybody. And, this is our utopia. And the utopia has never materialized. In fact, it's just a hellish existence for those that are in it, right? Okay, so clean up the streets. All right, number 2, remove homeless encampments. To where? Where are you going to put these folks? You've got thousands of people living on your streets. Where are you going to put them? You don't have housing for them all. And these folks don't want to go into housing because they're wildly addicted to drugs and or have major mental issues that don't allow them to live in normal housing. They need to be living in those encampments because that's the only place that they can kind of work out their existence, as sad as it is. And encouraging people to live like that is the most opposite of compassion for your fellow human being. If you had real compassion, if you were truly progressive, you'd want to get those people some help, right? And there are entities out there trying to do it. But when you say removing homeless encampments, move them to where? Where are you going to move them to? You're going to remove them. The people don't go away. You either got to put them in treatment or you got to put them in jail. That's not happening, right? Or housing. Well, we've already tried housing. They just tear it apart and destroy it. They can't live there. That's not an option, right? Because these people are, they've gone down these roads that have just overtaken their lives. And you as city leadership have allowed it to happen because that was the will of the people. Now the will of the people, including Gumps, is saying, oh God, yeah, we need to remove homeless encampments without really giving any forethought to what does that mean. And that's what I think about a lot is, okay, so you got 50 people living in an encampment. 3 of them take housing when you sweep it. Now you got 47 people that just moved a block up the road. So by removing homeless encampments, you mean, whack-a-mole to the next block over? You mean that? Or you want to get rid of them? Oh, you mean you really want to get rid of them? Okay, walk me through that. These are drug addicts. What are you going to do? How does that work? How are you going to involuntarily get them into treatment? How are you going to involuntarily get them into mental care facilities, which you don't have? So, all right. I mean, I'm all for removing homeless encampments as well. I am. I'm a real estate guy. And that's what I focus on is things impacting property values. A lot of what I talk about, right? So removing homeless encampments, it's nice to put in a letter, but it doesn't mean jack if you don't have a realistic plan for it, right? We've got enforcement of city and state ordinances, but that's not what your people wanted. That's not the will of the people. But all of a sudden it is. Oh, what about defunding the police? What about that? How many have said residents of San Francisco were all for that? Just progress is going to come. We're going to defund the police. We're going to give that money to the social workers. Yeah. And now you're left with this. Some might say that this is a result of some wildly failed policy, and I agree 100%. But enforcement of city and state ordinances, what does that mean? Okay, so you got city and state ordinances. It means people can't, live willy-nilly wherever. So you're going to fine them? These are people that don't have money, that do not care. You're going to fine them? You're going to, again, I go back to, you're going to throw them in jail if they don't pay their fines? Yeah, you don't have the resources for that. You don't have the bandwidth to pull any of this out. So enforcement of city and state ordinances, nor do you have the will of the people to make that happen. You just don't. So that's a no-go. And returning San Francisco to its rightful place as one of America's shining beacons of urban society. Well, it certainly has the potential to return, but I don't think with leadership and the constituents within a city like San Francisco, I don't think you don't have what it takes to turn that bad boy around. You don't have what it takes to create immediate action, cleaning the city streets and keeping them clean. You don't have that. Removing homeless encampments, that's a no-go. We've proven that time and time again. Enforcement of city and state ordinances. How? Who's going to do it? The cops? You don't have enough. And you don't let them do their job to begin with. And that's how you get here. So, and returning San Francisco to its rightful place in America. Yes, that should be happening. But with who you got going on in the city right now, not happening. So a lot of this is just double speak that really means nothing. But it means Gumps has, called everybody out. They're like, we need you to do something. You got to do something. We don't pay our taxes for nothing. But it's like, what does that look like? Mass scale. What does that look like? How are you going to get that done? I know Mayor London Breed, she's got a plan for cracking down on the fentanyl dealers. You've got so many different entities that have a piece of the pie. They're taking a piece of the pie. Nobody wants to give this up. Nobody wants to give this up. There's too much, billions and billions of dollars on the line. You got people addicted to drugs for years and years and years. That's a perfect scenario for all these drug dealers. You got it coming up through the southern border, just willy-nilly. How are you going to change that? You got so many different little pieces of the puzzle that aren't going anywhere. So while I agree with the direction of the letter that Gumps is going in and the direction of so many other companies that are saying, we need to make some change. We need to really look at how we're going to make this change. Realistically, nothing's going to change. Just not. I mean, I don't see how, and I'm a pretty optimistic guy. I'm more of a half full kind of guy versus half glass, half empty. I'm just like, you could probably make that work. I mean, odds are not high, but yeah, you can make that work. I don't see a knight in shining armor, a white knight coming in and rescuing these cities. It's going to take a lot of day in, day out, grinding it out, sweep after sweep after sweep, graffiti removal, kind of like we're doing here in Seattle. Just hit those things consistently, and you do what you can with the resources you have, but don't expect miracles. Don't expect any of these cities that have been hit the hardest. Don't expect LA, San Francisco, Portland, Seattle. Don't expect any of them to turn around anytime soon. The best you can hope for is a slowdown of the progression of all of this progressive policy that's, landed these cities in the hot water that it's in, to the point where, shopping malls are being given back to the lenders. You've got entire areas closing down, areas that used to be just historically super busy and super active in San Francisco. You had a lot of tourists, a lot of shoppers. Now, one thing that you can say that San Francisco has working against it, that not all cities do, Seattle has some element of it, is the work from home. The whole work from home, the technology that allows people around the world to work from home. A lot of that was concentrated right in San Francisco. So there's a large portion of the companies there and employees there that can and do work from home. So now you have less need for all this office space in downtown. And so you've got a greater work from home issue. And that's one of the things that I cover a lot here on News for Reasonable People, is this doom loop that is going on. And I saw the other day, it was taxation in, where was it? It was either Portland or Seattle, to make up for the difference in the budgets that all the real estate stuff bleeding out is causing city budgets to just be, upside down. They're wildly in the red. So, and what the vast majority of cities are going to do is they're going to tax their rich, right? They're going to tax their big companies. And then their big companies will say, yeah, you know what? Go after yourselves. We're out of here. We're going to go to XYZ, town in or city in Texas. We're going to go to Florida. We're going to go here. We're not staying here in this state, because the writing is on the wall. For a lot of these progressive states, you're going to have an income tax. You're going to have a tax up the ass for who knows what. I mean, that's the way it goes, because you're going to have an issue where you're not going to be able to balance the budget without taxing. You either got to cut services or you got to increase taxes. That's the way to generate revenue, right? So don't expect any of this stuff. It's going to take a lot of capital to make it work. Cities want to talk about, well, if we just had a private public partnership, we could make this go. It'd be a one happy world. I focus a lot on, and speaking of removing homeless encampments, well, we just need some more housing. Nah, you need more treatment for your wildly deranged, folks living on the sidewalks. Cause that is, those folks running around, I understand what it's like to be around some of those people, because you walk around them in Seattle. Some here in Bellevue, gotten whacked out nut jobs on meth or whatever, fentanyl, whatever, walking around Bellevue now because we made one of our hotels into a homeless shelter for the unhoused, right? Meaning you just got a bunch of drug addicts coming in on the bus from Seattle to Bellevue. Isn't progress great? Oh, this is so progressive. It's just going in the right direction. It's nutty. And yet at the same time, it's to be totally expected, because this is where you end up. So now you've got a whole bunch of businesses that are all clamoring, even their owners and their employees went down all these roads thinking this is going to be the greatest ever. We don't want anybody to spend any time in jail for drug abuse. We don't want anybody to spend time in jail for drug possession. People shouldn't be spending a couple of years in jail for felony shoplifting. Let's decriminalize that. Went down all these things. And now you're at this point where you're like, wow, maybe we were wrong. Oh yeah, this progressive policy is not taking us where we need to go. Oh, but hey, city, you guys need to fix that stat. You guys need to fix it like that. And there's no magic fix. That's the bottom line. There is no magic fix. If there was, I'd be talking about it. I think you've got long, slow fixes. They're going to take grind it out type leadership to make it happen. And you know what? You don't have grinded out leadership in most of these cities. Your perfect example, Chicago. Could have voted in a mayor that's a little bit more concerned with public safety. Meanwhile, you've got an entity up in Rogers Park wanting to do a peace fire with the gangs between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. because their kids are getting shot at such high rates. I mean, could you imagine? Yeah, you want little Johnny to live through gang, warfare, shootings, and those are shootings with the illegally obtained guns. They are not by legally obtained guns because, you got a criminal history. It's going to be tricky to get a gun. So they're all stolen, right? So let's always throw that out there because this whole, we need to really restrict gun ownership. Nah, you just need to restrict guns in the law in the hands of, criminals. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about taking a hard stance on criminals. Asking criminals to do a ceasefire between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. Yeah, good luck with that. I mean, honestly, you can ask. Yeah, they've got money to make. They've got the hustle to do, right? They're not going to stand by and go, God, wow, you know what? It's 9:01 p.m. Guess we got to go to work. I guess it's time to, do our thing. We got to go shoot some people. Is it going to go down like that? Absolutely not. No, it's ridiculousness. Just like this letter asking for this stuff to be, immediately do this, immediately do that. Well, how? I'm open to suggestions. How? What's that going to look like? Because if that was out there, we'd be seeing cities do it. The one thing that I can say does appear to be working is when private entities go in and do the sweep out and actually try and connect people to some resources. Maybe that gives them a shot at getting the help that they need. That is about the only thing long term that's going to help anybody because that reduces the number of people on the streets. Hopefully long term, some of those people, get the help that they need. And if not, are you going to incarcerate them? I don't see San Francisco, flipping that switch and going that route. I really don't. I mean, I think that is, if you ask the vast majority of, okay, here's what it's going to take to clean up. Here's what you're going to have to do. Are you willing to do that? Or are you willing to, support a politician that's willing to do that? You know what the answer would be? That's too extreme. That is too extreme. No can do. No can do. That would be your answer. And yet they still want to bitch like Gump's here about conditions on the street. And I don't blame them. They've been around forever. I don't blame them. But this notion of removing homeless encampments. Okay. I agree. They should be removed too. They should have never been allowed to take place to begin with. Period. But you're living in a city where that happened. So, good luck with that. You make that vote count, right? Make that vote count. But in a progressive environment like San Francisco, this is what you get. You're stuck with it. You voted it in. You bought and paid for it. Now you're stuck with it. No short-term solutions. Those are my thoughts. That's my thought on here on the letter for Gumps. I feel for Gumps. They've been around forever and they appear to be a cool store if that's what you're into. And I know a lot of people, so many people have sent me this. I'm like, okay, Gumps is significant and I get it. But, moving forward, I don't think there's a lot that's going to be done. I just don't. I think the damage has already been done. Now you got to deal with that. And the slow workout on the other end is going to be more than most people are going to be willing to bargain for. So expect podcasts for years from me. Thanks so much for being here. I'll catch up with you on the next one for sure. Until then, we'll catch up soon. Bye for now.